Hi everyone, here with 3 hints and tips that you can do to improve your control over your mountain bike. So, tip number 1, and this has to do with the angle of your handlebar. Pretty much everyone these days is running a riser bar of some sort, but one of the things you might not know is that bar actually sweeps back in a U shape by several degrees. And one of the things that people often make a mistake of doing is setting the sweep of their bar to be sort of flat with the ground. So the bar sort of creeps back towards you old school cruiser style. This is not actually what you want. If you look at your bike from the side, what you really want is to see the sweep of that bar actually pointing up towards your shoulder when you're in your riding position. And what that's going to do is it's going to help the grip line of your hand line up with the sweep of that bar so you get a nice, relaxed, comfortable position, nice and neutral. So yeah, you're going to want to rotate your bar until that sweep of the bar points up towards your shoulder, not flat back towards your seat. That's the first thing. Thing number 2 has to do with brake lever position, and there are actually sort of like 3 sub-points here. The first thing you want to do is you want to move your brake lever mounts inboard on your handlebar until you can only grab with your index finger the end of the brake lever. Okay? No sense in having that brake lever way pushed over towards the grip and have room for 2 or 3 or 4 fingers. In the old days of cantilever brakes, the brake levers were very long and you needed all 4 fingers on there to squeeze to try to slow the bike down. Thankfully, it's not those days anymore. So get your brake lever pushed inboard so that you're grabbing the tip of the brake lever with just your index finger, right at the very end of everything. So the most leverage it's where you're going to have good modulation, it's where you have good power, and it leaves you 3 fingers for grabbing onto the handlebar when things get a little rowdy. That's the first thing. The second thing is actually the angle of your brake levers. So you want the angle of your brake levers to be down, again, as if it's in a plane pointed back towards your shoulder. You want your wrist to be straight on the handlebar with your finger extended. You don't want it kinked up like this, and you don't want it reaching over like this. You want everything nice and aligned to keep everything neutral and comfortable. There are exceptions to this. For example, and you already know this if you do this, but if you're a trials rider, you're going to actually angle your brake levers much further down, because you're going to spend a lot of time with your bike up on the rear wheel for pedal kicking across gaps. And when you do that, of course, when you rotate the bike up, the brake levers will actually come up. So you're still following the same rule if you consider the bike's natural position on a trials bike. But on a regular mountain bike, and this doesn't matter for me anyway, if it's a enduro bike or a downhill bike or a trail bike or whatever, cross-country racing, whatever, you want that nice smooth line through your wrist to your braking finger. Okay? And then the third thing is to adjust the reach of your brake levers, and that is how far your brake lever starts from the handlebar itself. I myself don't like to have to extend my finger way out to grab my brake. I like my finger in a nice neutral position. So even though I have pretty big mitts, I tend to adjust my brake levers very far in. So that I'm not overextending my index finger, my braking finger, to get to that brake lever. I don't want to be out here, I want to be in here, nice and comfortable and neutral. And that keeps those brake levers in a position where I always have access to them, where they're always ready to go. And because I know that I've got good modulation and control over the brakes, I'm not afraid to let the speed build, because I know I can rein it back in. So brake lever position is thing number 2. Thing number 3, and this is just a little thing, and I'm not seeing a lot of people do this these days, although it used to be moderately common in my scene anyway, which is I run metal bar end caps on the end of my handlebar. And I do that so that when I have to inevitably ditch the bike because I've done something stupid or I need to get off it in a hurry, and the bike goes clattering over a pile of rocks, the ends of my handlebar don't end up smashed and dinged and busted and broken. This matters quite a lot actually if you're running a carbon fiber handlebar, but even if you're running an aluminum bar or titanium or something, the wall section is very thin out there at the end. So get yourself some decent plugs. Loads of people make them. A lot of BMX bike companies actually make them if you want to go really inexpensive. And get those on there. And it gives you some very cheap insurance so that you don't smash your handlebar, and if you're using bolt-on grips, like your outer mount for those, it keeps everything nice and intact, and again, allows you to have a bit more confidence when you're riding through the really rowdy stuff. those three things will really help you get that handlebar and those control surfaces in a position where you feel comfortable and confident to be able to tackle difficult terrain. So, there you go. Subscribe, like. Nice to talk to you.